It's a Monday afternoon in suburban New Jersey, and Sadie Sink is trying to figure out how chemical bonds work. "It's for my biology homework," she explains. "Ionic bonds, covalent bonds, hydrogen bonds. It's a curiously normal activity for a 15-year-old who is about to become a household name thanks to her breakout role as Mad Max in Stranger Things 2, a skateboard-obsessed, arcade game-loving California transplant who piques both Lucas Caleb McLaughlin and Justin's Gatton Matarazzo romantic interest. Of all of the bizarre occurrences in this series, watching the gang navigate puberty might be the most disconcerting. Netflix stardom was not always on the cards for Sink. Her father coached American football in her rural Texas hometown, Brenham, a tiny place where life revolves around sports, and her family lived at the pitch. It was a lasting obsession with Disney's High School Musical that got her into community theater, which in turn led to a Broadway audition and the lead in the 2012 revival of Annie at just 10 years old. Cue her entire family moving to New Jersey and a new life that centered on vocal training and dance lessons, none of which seems to have fazed her. "I was always happy as long as I was on stage, but the schedule was intense. I did 8 shows a week, with Mondays off. I would finish just before midnight every night. Everything you need to know before watching Stranger Things 2. What Vogue recommends this weekend." It was on Broadway that she first met Stranger Things McLaughlin, who played the young Simba in The Lion King, and Matarazzo, who starred as Gavroche in Les Miserables. If you're a child, and you're on Broadway, you automatically know every other child in a production, she says, laughing. "It's a proper community. There's a park on 43rd Street where we would all go to let off energy before we had to go back and perform another show." Asked whether she feels like she missed out on anything thanks to her status as a Broadway baby, summers off for high school dances, for instance, her response is deadpan: "I would have skipped prom anyway." Netflix. Despite her acting credentials and Broadway connections, she was never a shoo-in for the role of Max, and the audition process was grueling. "I had to go in for 5 callbacks, and then a screen test. It all happened over the course of a fortnight, but it seemed like ages. I had virtually no information about the character's backstory. Finally landing the role meant months of intense preparation before heading down to Atlanta to film. I worked with a skateboarding instructor for 3 hours every day," she explains. "We would go to the park and do ramps. I had to wear a ridiculous amount of gear, elbow pads, knee pads, every kind of pad, plus a helmet, to stop myself from getting hurt." When Vogue met Millie Bobby Brown inside the world of Grace Jones, there was also the task of educating herself about the 80s given that she was born in 2001. Before the first series, the others were told to watch films like E.T. and The Breakfast Club, but I mainly listened to music from that decade: Cyndi Lauper, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. Thankfully, friendship with the rest of the Stranger Things gang came more naturally, a blessing, since they were filming together for 8 months, often in the middle of the night in remote locations around Georgia. So, how did they bond? "Gatton and I would sing Hamilton tunes constantly. Caleb and I got into a fight with water balloons. And Millie and I went to an Adele concert the first night that we met and ended up going on a trip to Cabo together later on." So, what's next for the young star right now? "I'm just making plans for Halloween. My friends and I are going trick-or-treating. I'm going to dress up as Wendy from Peter Pan, and my brother is going as Captain Hook. Nice to know that SHE's not all grown up just yet, then." Stranger Things 2 is available to stream on Netflix now.